Boom, there it is, ladies and gentlemen, the pharmacy industry. That is a new vertical I haven't been talking about in quite some time, and a lot's changed in this technological world. But has the drug industry caught up? We're about to find out. Let's get this one on the road. Here we go.
Shut up and sit down.
Look, a business can give you everything you want in life: prestige, wealth, freedom. It can also take everything away from you. This show is for those who are willing to take that risk. These are the real life stories of entrepreneurs. But before we start, I have one small favor to ask. Please leave a comment. It can be advice, critiques, tips, feedback, or share this with someone, because your engagement is the most valuable and most powerful form of social currency. So thank you, and welcome to another episode of Business Buzz. All right, ladies and gentlemen, attention independent pharmacy owners. Are you struggling to keep up with ever-changing digital world? Are you looking to expand your patient base and providing convenience and quality care to your customers? Then look no further, because our guest today is here to help. With a passion for digital growth and expertise in the pharmacy industry, our guest is the CEO of Drugstore2Door, a company that provides independent pharmacies with the tools, marketing, and coaching needed to succeed in today's market. Join us as we learn how to improve our online presence, join a network of independent pharmacies, and provide the best possible care to your patients. Now let's welcome to the show, Mr. AJ Asgari. Just like that, the party can begin. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, man, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course. All right, let's start off with this whole new digital landscape that we've been going into. We got OpenAI taking over the world with ChatGPT. We had a huge shift in how we communicate after 2020. How has the digital landscape changed the way independent pharmacies do business in the first place?
Man, that's a great question. And COVID was a fantastic time to kind of put the accelerator on everybody. And so the thing with independent pharmacy that we're tackling is giving them the tools to get up to date with their digital presence so that customers and patients are getting what we've got accustomed to, right? Like, we don't even put pants on anymore to get a hamburger. We pay a $7 premium to have a $5 hamburger sent to the house. And when you're talking about drugs, there's nothing sexy about getting your medications. They're like the things you have to do, right? And so the landscape today for independent pharmacies and pharmacies in general, even when you're looking at chain stores, they're all fighting for this competitive edge to make life more simple when it comes to that healthcare experience. And so we've equipped ourselves to give the independent network of pharmacies, which is, for those that don't know, there's like 20,000 independent pharmacies across the United States, and they're all varying shapes, sizes, offer different services. And so when I talk to anybody, especially a younger generation, about pharmacy, I'll say, hey, do you know anything about independent pharmacy? And their first response to me is it something like a Walgreens, which is troubling for a community of business owners across the United States that are servicing a tremendous number of patients. And so there's no question we got to get these guys and gals up to speed as quickly as possible.
Dude, I'm not in the industry at all. And when you pose that question, look, I'm a Kaiser baby. I've been at Kaiser since I was born, right? I knew my medical record when I was 10 years old from all the accidents that I was getting into. So for me, it's always been, I go and get my, just right there at the same place where I go to see my doctor. And if you were to ask me that question, I would have said the same thing. Walgreens, CVS, that's the only thing I know as far as independence. But you're saying that's a whole different industry, and there are people who are struggling to compete there, right?
Yeah. So when you talk about chain drugstores, we think about Walgreens, CVS, even the grocery store ones like your Kroger's and your Walmarts. So those are the big chain retailers. But then there's pharmacists like myself, believe it or not, I'm a pharmacist, who own independent pharmacies, and we service the same patient base. I mean, I've got a store that's right across the street from a Walgreens, right? So we are very much contenders in the space. The thing is, we're all independent business owners. So we all kind of run these silos, but we don't really attack the industry as a whole. And this is a great opportunity with the way things are moving online to really start to combat that, because we can offer all those services. And I don't care what independent pharmacy I point you to, I have a high level of confidence when I send you there, you will never go back to one of the bigger chain players after you get the level of service that those guys provide you.
Well, if you're going to deliver the medication that I need directly to my door, where I don't even have to go to a quote unquote convenience store to get it, that's not so convenient when it can get delivered to my house. Like, we're living in the Amazon age, my brother. If it doesn't get delivered, it is probably not a product that's going to be surviving very much. All right. So then that poses the question, right? What are some common challenges that these independent pharmacies face when it comes to growing digitally? Because, if I'm going to be ordering something online, it means I got to search for it first and foremost. First of all, I didn't know it didn't exist. So what are they doing to overcome this digital growth dilemma?
Well, see, that's the thing we've run into. And so it's what we're attacking head on. A few years ago when I was looking at my stores, I had a marketer on staff. I was like, look, man, we can't make money. We're not making money online. We're open 9 to 6 or, 8 to 7 or whatever our hours might be. And if our store's not open and somebody's not walking through our door, we weren't making money, right? So that's a huge problem. And so what we did is we've gone in and we created something that each individual pharmacy would really struggle to recreate on their own because it's so cost prohibitive. To create a true shopping experience, like you just mentioned, where you can go in and it's seamless and you can order prescriptions, over-the-counter medications, book flu shots, COVID testing, any of the things that you would do with a pharmacy. The fact that independents don't have that online is concerning, right? It was really concerning for us and even my own locations. And so we fast-tracked this and said, let's solve it at scale so that we can offer it up to the independent pharmacies in a bite size, if you will, so that they can afford this thing and have all of the tools that the major players have. And I would argue even more at this point, so that when a consumer like you or I hits their platform or their website or the core drugstore-to-door platform to be pushed to one, boom, you can execute on anything and everything you're out to do. And it could be 9 o'clock and you can be laying horizontal in your bed and you can get it done.
And I imagine that is how drugstore-to-door actually came into fruition, right? Your job here is to help independent pharmacies improve their online presence. So walk me through it. If I'm an independent pharmacist here and I'm like, look, I need to get into this digital age. It's about time I start getting on board with this sort of stuff. I didn't have very many places to look. I find you. What do I get? What's that process like?
Dude, this is what's amazing. So majority, if you hit an independent pharmacy site, it's what you would see out of a lot of small business owners. It's kind of this glorified digital business card. There's not a ton of utility. You go there, you're like, oh, here's their address, here's their hours, here are the services they provide, and here are some cute pictures of the staff, right? That's kind of the basis of small business websites. What we do when we come in, we actually take that website over and all of those modules we've built, the prescription fulfillment and payment and scheduling tools and full e-commerce, turnkey e-commerce, all of that stuff is built in. So when we convert their site over, they have all of that horsepower behind them. And then they can turn all of those things on and immediately start servicing their customer base in a brand new way, a way that they have never experienced before.
So I used to own this video game truck, and one of the things we did to kind of grow that business was we did things like Groupon and Living Social, some of these platforms, and they gave us the ability to get our name out there. What you're describing kind of makes me feel that way. We're still independently operated, but you're giving people the fuel they need so that they can get their message out to the general public, so that it's no longer just, here's my contact information. It's, I'm going to get you so that customers that are looking in your area can find you. Not only can they find you, can they order from you? And you're working on fulfillment, which is what you were already doing really well at the beginning anyways. Am I correct?
Exactly. And the thing is, if you take amazonpharmacy.com or you go to any other mail order style pharmacy, have one problem with your medication and tell me how fast you can get to a pharmacist to talk you through what's going on, right? When we plug this technology into independent pharmacies, You have a problem, you click the button, you call in, you're talking to a pharmacist within a minute. And it's a pharmacist who's probably only a couple miles away from you. So if you need something more extensive, you could actually go visit that person face to face. But for anything and all needs, you're actually being serviced by a local independent in your community. So that's game changer, right? You're supporting small business. You're not giving anything up technologically. And when it comes to price point, we compete all day. That's another huge misconception in our space. We can compete all day long. So people think Amazon equates cheaper. It doesn't. Like, I mean, there are times where stuff on Amazon is far more expensive than it is, you know, when you're shopping locally or you're buying from another vendor. And it's very true for independent pharmacy as well.
You know, at all times in almost every business industry or vertical, there's always the benefits of working within a network, right? Having people that you can bounce ideas off of, send business to, get business from. What are some of the benefits that the independent pharmacies get to benefit from joining your program? But at the same time, what about the patients? I mean, you mentioned how it's easy for them to talk to people, but what are some of those other benefits that they get because they're now part of this great network?
Well, think about this. Like today, where you're at, let's say you decide to go on vacation tomorrow and you travel across the country and you forgot your blood pressure medication, right? So if you're using a chain of pharmacies, the likelihood is there's a CVS in your backyard now, and you find another CVS in that location, and that CVS takes care of you. When we pull pharmacies together like this, you just go on and say, hey, my pharmacy through Drugstore2Door is amazing in my local area. I'm going to use another Drugstore2Door pharmacy in this area who's another independent who has nothing to do with that one, but I know the cadence and level of service I'm going to get, and you tap that one in that area as well. We want the consumer to have a high level of confidence, the patient, when they're getting medications. I mean, it's from everything from vanity drugs to life-saving. I mean, doesn't matter what it is, right? We want to make sure that they've got the support of that independent pharmacy. So it opens up both sides. And we're really focused on that patient too, because we want patients to experience what the small business owners can do. And I use small lightly. We've got people who do insane amount of volume and service and an insane number of patients. So it's, again, kind of a misconception, but the difference is, go find a CVS in a small town in one of your areas and see if a CVS plugs there. They won't, because the economics don't make sense for them to plug a big old store in that location. Somebody's got to service that patient base, right? And that's where you'll find, not only in major metropolitan areas, but in all the nooks and crannies of the world, you're going to find these small independent owners who go, there's a population who needs me and I'm going to set up shop here, right? So the reach gets really incredible.
Let me ask you about prescriptions. Like, you know, oftentimes you get a prescription from your doctor, you're going to get this medication. And you mentioned the going on vacation thing, which got me thinking, if I have a profile on your platform and I have my prescription in there and I do need to travel, do I need to get my prescription resubmitted to the new drugstore, or does the platform kind of help alleviate some of that stuff so that it's a lot easier for me to be on the move? Maybe it's because I went to go, you know, vacation or visit family or whatever it is. The accessibility of it, is that something that you guys help on the back end as well?
Yeah, incredible. All you would do is go in, find the closest store to you. You would click on the transfer button that we have on their site. Let me remind you, we're building this for them, so it's on their site. You would click a transfer button. You'd say, here's my name, here's my date of birth, and this is the pharmacy I typically get this thing at, and here's what I need. Here's the RX number, 12345. Submit it. That pharmacy does all the lifting for you. They'll contact the other pharmacy. They'll pull your stuff over, and you'll get notified through their website via text, email, also the little status bar like an Uber Eats or a DoorDash. You get an update. Hey, man, your prescriptions are ready. Do you want us to deliver, pick up, whatever you chose, that happens.
What are some other tools here? Okay, so you're able to transfer these things out, but part of this model is that it gets delivered to your door, right? What if you have independent pharmacies that didn't offer that service in the past? Everything was client comes in, it was very traditional. They turn in their prescription, they get their drugs right there, they leave. But now you want to kind of flip this model, and a pharmacist might see the opportunity, but it's like, look, dude, I don't want to hire drivers. I don't want to hire all this stuff. tell me, like, what's going to stop me from wanting to go to use your service if I don't want to add all these additional features on my own?
Yeah, so here's what's awesome about that. So the way we set up, we can build radiuses around stores. So let's say a store says, hey, I got a delivery radius I'm willing to do is 10 miles. Okay, so we can set that up. So if you're 11 miles away from that store, you don't have an option for them to deliver. So that's a decision you'll make at that time. Here's the beauty of the model. Over 75% of independent pharmacies already do some form of delivery. We just put it on steroids. So when a customer comes through or a patient comes through and clicks and says, hey, I want local delivery. The other thing that's crazy about this is a lot of these independents deliver for next to free, if not free. So when you look at like a CVS or a Walgreens trying to bring an Instacart or somebody in, we all know that. It's the hamburger analogy I gave, right? Like you're going to pay, you might have a $5 prescription. You're going to pay a $10 delivery fee for Instacart to go pick that up and then bring it to your door, right? And you're dealing with two different platforms. With us, that pharmacy's already got delivery. You know that it's a hired staff member of that pharmacy whose job is to protect your data, protect your information, protect your prescription, who's bringing that to your door. So we're just enhancing the services that the majority already offer.
You mentioned earlier how we have this misconception of Amazon being cheaper, or these big box places being cheaper. And in my classroom, we watch a lot of Shark Tank, and I know Mark Cuban has his whole other side on the medication where he's able to provide some of these drugs at very nominal rates, right? They tack on a little bit of percentage from whatever it is that they cost it, and then the customer benefits from that. And I feel like that's the type of independent pharmacy that you're helping out here. Is this what you mean by like they're able to compete on price when it comes to some of the medications? Are they going like completely generic, or they have a wide range of name brand and generic? How does that work?
Yeah, so think about it. I've had discussions with Mark Cuban in all transparency. The reality of this is, who do you think Mark Cuban's going to have to use to get his model to work?
Independent pharmacies, baby.
Only avenue. It's his only avenue. He has a little mail order facility that's at capacity. The only way for his model to work is to introduce a price set, help independent pharmacies get the drugs at the cost that he's negotiated so he can get the profit that he wants to get. But at the end of the day, we fulfill that. And the thing I'll tell you is we're getting the same drugs he's getting. So when you look at that generic list of drugs, I can come out there and say, hey, here's a drugstore-to-door plan. We'll match the cost plus program. You can buy anything like this. You do it through any of the independent pharmacies and they'll fulfill it cash at the same price point. And I would guarantee we could hit 90+% of the same drugs at the same price and potentially beat some out. So it's not like GoodRx as well, right? Like these guys came into the market. They're not doing anything other than, I shouldn't say that. Mark is definitely doing something, and I'm glad he's making a splash the way he's making a splash because it's exposing a lot of the problems in the industry. So I take my hat off to him in his efforts. But at the end of the day, it's still this network of independent stores that have to make that become a reality for those types of players to win. And so that's why we're all in. I mean, we're all in, and we believe in independent pharmacy to the fullest, and we're going to help them in every way possible to execute. And Mark Cuban's piece will be one of those. It'll be one of those avenues, but we can absolutely do it today. It doesn't have to be a Mark Cuban store or an affiliated store who's helping. Go to an independent and challenge your generic price point. Brand name drugs are just expensive. I mean, I can't tell you how many brand name drugs that we dispense that we actually lose money on. Negative, man. Like we're giving it to you and we're losing. It's like coming in and saying, hey, I want to buy this shirt. You take the shirt and you take $5 out of my register and you walk out. And that's literally what's happening in pharmacy, which is terrible.
Yeah. It is horrible. That's not a business model that's sustainable at all.
It's not,
right?
It's not. Yeah.
Well, speaking of sustainable business models, tell me a little bit about your company. Like, where are you guys at? A little history on it. Where are you at? Where do you plan on going?
Man, my goal has been to get this thing as close to giving it away as I possibly can. I want every independent pharmacy to have the access. I want their patients to have access. I want the patients they don't serve today to have the access. Over the last few years, we have grown tremendously. We've got close to 1,000 pharmacies utilizing some component of our technology. And with the full site offering that we released last year, we're getting close to 400 full site stores at this point and growing rapidly. And that's why we're out here now getting the word out and just pushing it through as many avenues as possible. And we've got enough coverage at this point now. We want to start making patients aware so that they are truly shopping their options, because that's what we want to do, right? Like, and the thing is, even though we can compete on price, there's a premium that any of us will pay all day long for a level of service that supersedes others, and a level of confidence in that service, especially when it comes to our health. So that's where I tell pharmacies, don't go the cheapest, just be the best. Like, you just need to be the best. And once a customer experience is the best and they're not giving anything up, right? If I have to get up, put my clothes on, and make it to your store between 9 and 6, and that's the only way something's going to happen, you've created a lot of challenges in a space that I'm busy. We can call it lazy, whatever you want to call it. I want convenience, right? Especially on items that are not destination items for me. I want that to be as convenient as possible. Like, don't let it interrupt my day. Answering the door to accept it is about as much disturbance that I'm willing to tolerate in my days anymore, right?
Yeah, I don't want to have to put my clothes on if I don't have to, but opening the door, I can throw a robe on and I'm good. That's it. Open the door. Thank you very much. Here's a tip. And you have a great rest of your day. Let me ask you, man, in this business, almost any business, there's always hurdles, right? Things and obstacles that we need to overcome. What's been your biggest obstacle, or what is your biggest obstacle, and how are you guys attacking that?
Man, really for us, it's just keeping up with the scale and the growth. I'm in a lot of businesses. I've everything from real estate to obviously pharmacy ownership to starting a tech company and growing a tech company to owner in a bank to bank board, all of it, right? Like, so I truly, like, I thrive on business. I love it. I've been a student of it for as long as I can remember. So all of those typical challenges that exist in business, they exist across the board. What's funny, when I talk to other business owners, everyone thinks everyone else's industry is an easier industry, and it's just a different set of rules. And it's the same shit. I mean, you're dealing with the same stuff day in and day out. And it's like, you just pick your hard. So find your hard and then just go all in. And we find new challenges, but that's the part I love, man. The harder the challenge, the bigger the barrier. I know there are going to be fewer people on the other side of that. And that really motivates me to push through those barriers, because that's the filter. That's life's filter. That's the success filter. That's the business filter. Like, push through those, because that's filtering out all the people who don't have the same drive and work ethic and consistency that you have. I love it. Like, I thrive on that stuff.
Let me take you back a little bit to like the start of this venture. You've had a lot of experience in business, and the people who tend to listen to the show are more along the lines of they're getting started, or they're the solopreneur wearing all the hats at the very beginning. I mean, what you talked about right now is have a team in place, right? Have somebody there who can do what you're weak at and they're strong at that particular thing. If you were going to give some advice to people who are just getting started in business, maybe it's their first go about, maybe they've already failed and they're ready to take on that next challenge. When people approach a business model, when you're looking at a business that you're going to invest in, like when you were getting started to do this and commit your time to it, what are you looking for? And what is it that you kind of are like, all right, this is what I do really well. This is what I'm giving up.
Yeah, for sure. First thing is you got to solve a real problem. So I watch people jump in way too fast and they think they're solving a problem, but they haven't even, you can test the market with a napkin. Like, you don't have to build a whole robust business. Go pull a handful of people in, test your theory, test your ideas, bootleg it all, just strap it all together and go get 10 or 15 people to become raging fans of what you're doing, and then see if it works on 50. And then when it clicks, then you're like, okay, I got something here, right? I'm solving a real problem. And then once you know you're solving a real problem, then that's where you start going all in, man. I was in the early days. I did everything, man. My first store, dude, I was working at CVS 14-hour days, literally 14-hour days. First pharmacy I bought, I was driving on my one day off 2 hours to that pharmacy and working for free to convince that owner that I was a willing and able body and I was going to do right by his store, right? And so I bought my very first business. I tell this story all the time, especially students. I was $150,000 in pharmacy school debt. I was broke, man. I had to borrow money from my dad at the time to pay rent on my first place as I started my job at CVS as a pharmacist. And I bought that first pharmacy with my mouth and my work ethic. And to go do the thing that others aren't willing to do, that same thing I just said. Like, I hopped in a car, drove 2 hours to go work for free on the one day that's a 4-hour round trip on my one day off to prove it out. And once I did, then I set up a deal, and within 3 years, first pharmacy, and already buying my second pharmacy, right? So we can find every excuse on the planet not to do something. There's an avenue, and it doesn't even take money to do it. But in the beginning, I wore every hat, man, and I had to. And then as soon as I started to generate some actual revenue to support the next person, right? Who's that next person? What's the thing they can take away? Then I started to give things away and try to stay in my lane or my giftedness. Like, this is where I thrive. Here's where I can go grow business. Me running reports all day, or me doing HR and handling the employees, or me going and doing the QuickBooks and all. Those were the things I started to give away, because that was the thing at like 10 o'clock at night. You're going, God, why did I sign up for this? You know, like, you're running through payroll reports and you're going through your P&Ls and you're trying to, see. And I'm like, it's not for me. Like, there's someone out there who loves this shit. Let me let them do it. Right. And so then you go start bringing those people on, and they let you do what you do, which is, most of us as the business owner, we're the visionary, we're the growth catalyst. And so my goal always is, how do I get back to the growth avenue? Because that's where I need to spend 100% of my time. And so I'm constantly looking at, in every business I've grown, even this one, we started with 3 people. We were all wearing a ton of hats. Within 18 months, we're at 20, 21 people now, and growing rapidly, right? In the pharmacy business, I started with 4, and now there's like 65 employees on that side. So then you can start, and you just keep working your way back, and you get stretched, and then you work your way back, and you get stretched, and you work your way back. And if you're just consistent, you do it when it's fun, when it sucks, when it's, when you're loving every minute of it, when you're making money, when you're not making money, that's the game changer, man. People think it takes like this crazy amount of intelligence. I consider myself a smart dude, but I'll outwork the hell out of 99.5% of the population, and potentially more. And I will grind the gears if I have to grind the gears.
100%. Now, there's 2 parts, I think, in the business that I think people either succeed or fail at, which dooms or succeeds the business. And part of it is the operations, the fulfillment, the tech, the doing the work. The other side is the sales and marketing aspect of it. And I know, just speaking to over 1,000 entrepreneurs, that's where a lot of people struggle, myself included. That's where we fall off. What's been your sales and marketing strategy? How do you go about convincing those first 15 people, those first 50 people, to now scaling to make this something huge, viable for your business model? So
pharmacy owners do this a lot. They think in terms of, what would I do, when they're not the target demographic, right? Mm-hmm. And so the thing they'll go in is, I'll say, hey, here's some ideas, here's some things you can punch in. Well, I would never do that. Okay. Well, how many people walk in your door that you take care of every day, that make north of 6 figures a year, that have an education that's 8 years of college with a doctorate degree at the end of it? How many of your profile walks through your door? It's close to 0, right? The beautiful thing about this company is, I'm the target demographic. I understand this customer better than anybody could understand this customer. I live it, breathe it, eat it, the whole thing. You know what I mean? So if you can't be that person, you got to find that cohort of people who represent the crowd you're going after, so that you're not doing what you think. You might execute on the strategy, but you're solving a real problem for the real people that you're targeting. And they're the ones driving the decisions you're making and how you're building that strategy.
That makes total sense. Because at the end of the day, I mean, we are the ones blocking ourselves from our success. We're the ones who are going to get in our own way, or we're the ones who are going to get out of our way.
Dude, AJ, you've shared a bunch of information. I know that this business model is something that is definitely necessary. You're solving a real problem with getting people the medication that they need. We have an aging population that is driving less and less. We have gas prices that are freaking through the roof. So, for us to be able to stay home and get our stuff is way better than having to drive places. Before we head out, if people want to reach out, maybe they want to learn more about what you got going on, they want to reach out and ask questions about maybe even signing on, how can they do that?
Easy, man. Drugstore2Door.com is if you're pharmacy driven, you're a pharmacist, you want to get on, you want to learn, or you're a patient, and you just want to kind of explore around to see what pharmacies are a network, great place. For me personally, go to my name, AJAsgari.com. I have everything linked out, all my social. You'll see that I'm in a little bit of everything. Fitness is a big thing for me. It's part of my catapult into business and self-understanding and all that stuff. So I'm trying now, as much as this part's been hard for me, because I grew up in a time where it's like, keep your stuff private, So this is a very foreign thing for me to get out there and be like, here's what I'm doing, here's what I've done. So I try to teach through not only the successes, but like, hey, look at my mistake path. If you look at the mistake path, you're going to learn just as much, if not more, as you're going to learn going down the path of what led to the successes. We're all quick to, all of our social media platforms, they're full of like the highlight reels of everybody's life. And you're like, give me the real shit, man. Like, what are you dealing with? What's the struggle? Because I know it's not roses. I tell you firsthand, it's not. And the same thing with the platform. Like you mentioned the aging population. Yes. But who are the caretakers of the aging population? It's you and me, man. Before my dad died, we were the caretakers, right? I used my own platform to make sure medicine was getting to my dad, and I could just check it quickly on my app to make sure that, hey, it made it. I know that he's got what he needs. My mom and dad are good, and I could continue and go on about my day. And that was leveraging my own stores with my own technology, right? Solving a real problem for the patient and for me as the pharmacy business owner.
Dude, that's a win, man. It's funny how sometimes our passion projects become even the life necessity that we need to get done.
Yeah.
And AJ, you guys are tearing it up. And I agree with you, man. I grew up in a different time. I was asked the question the other day, which decade would you go back to? And I was like, man, I go back to the 90s, just right before the internet really took off. I was literally sitting talking to a buddy of mine, and he was showing me he got his VHS tapes digitized, and so he's showing me his high school graduation. He's like, look, dude, this is 30 years ago. And I was like, look at everybody. Nobody's holding a phone. They're all paying attention, clapping. It's a whole different world, man. But we're in today. And today you and your company are making sure that people get what they need and taking advantage of it in this new digital age. So I want to applaud you and thank you very much for doing what you do. I got one last selfish question, man. You're getting your name out there. You're going on different podcasts. Shout out to Todd, by the way, getting you on different shows. What was your experience like on the Business Bros?
Dude, I love it, man. Love the energy here. It's a great podcast. I think anyone who's doing anything, even if you failed completely, man, you should be a guest on this show because there's so much for people to learn. And I think guys like you that are just out there pushing this, it's a lot of work, man. I know it. I got a whole media team and I'm just getting started. So I know how much work it is to get out there and actually share a message and for people to respect that, understand it, and contribute, right? A simple like, a simple comment, like just put a little energy in. If you got one nugget, just put a little energy in because it goes a long way in helping us continue to spread the message.
100%. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Look, another entrepreneur, another amazing venture. And this is what I'm talking about. Everybody has a really good story when they're in business. I mean, ups, downs, lefts, rights, successes and failures. Like they're all amazing. And AJ's a classic example, solving real life problems. And I bet in just a matter of time, you're going to be like, oh, I remember seeing this show. And now you got your prescription delivered to your door. So thank you very much, AJ, for coming on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, if you guys have any questions, make sure you reach out to AJ. His social media, by the way, we didn't say it, but it's just his name, AJ Asgari. Find him on social, reach out, send him a DM, learn from these entrepreneurs who are already doing things successfully. You've already made the mistakes. You don't have to make the same mistakes somebody else did. If you learn from them, find mentors who can help you get to where you want to go. We'll catch you guys on the next episode. Peace. And we're out.
It's over. Go home. Is your business in need of marketing? Try starting a podcast. But not just any podcast. Podcast like a pro. We can show you how to take your business from being invisible to becoming a brand people trust. Go to www.businessbros.biz